All right. Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Good to see you guys. We really appreciate having you come join us, giving us your 3 o'clock Eastern time to join us. Um, this is the Men's National Community Health Worker Alliance, and I'm Mike Young. I'm the host of the shows, but I'm the president and I run these meetings. So today, our topic is the hidden impact of brain injuries, a CHW roadmap to recognition and response. What I would love to do is have everybody quickly introduce themselves, and then I want to actually do a breakout session, a short one afterwards, so that people get to talk to each other a little bit more than how we've been doing it. So let's go one by one, and then we'll kick off into our great speaker and the lovely knowledge that she has to share. I'm gonna kick it off to Devin.
Hi, everybody. This is my first meeting. It's been on my calendar for a while, but 3 o'clock Eastern time is challenging for me. But nice to meet you all. Devin Abden. I'm the CHW and Care Coordination Supervisor in Franklin County Public Health in Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio, nice, awesome. Glad to have you. Thanks for being here with us. Let us know what works for you, okay? Because I think we're gonna do a revamping of our timing, right? I think this year I kind of picked third Thursdays at 3 just for its alliteration, but it doesn't seem to be the best for everybody's. It's memorable, but it's not practical. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. Mike.
That's me. Well, there's two mics here. There's me and you. Are there any other mics? I mean, it's a really rare name. So, I don't even know how you got it. But I'm Mike Leventhal. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm not a community health worker. I am not a public health educator. I am the executive director for the Tennessee chapter of the Men's Health Network. And I can't remember his name off the top of my head, at the Southeastern Community Health Worker Conference back in Lexington. And he told me about, pardon me?
Casey.
Okay.
Casey Taylor.
It could have been.
Yeah.
I've slept since then. Sebastian is actually the one who told me about this meeting. So here I am. I'm here to listen. I'm here to learn. And I'm here to let y'all know I've got your back. We got your back at Men's Health Network. And I'm looking forward to being an active participant in these meetings indefinitely. Thank you.
Excellent. Glad to have you. Thank you very much for joining us. We value all you have to share. Ray, tell us about yourself, Ray.
Well, I'm assuming you mean me and not Daryl, Ray.
We have so many conflicting identities today.
Too many mics and too many Rays.
You guys are rays of sunshine.
My name's Ray Hernandez, and I am where am I today? Oh, I'm in Springdale, Arkansas. I work for the University of Arkansas for medical sciences, and I am a community health worker. Transitioning roles from having been doing fatherhood programs for the last 2 years to doing some community outreach and focus group and community advisory board building. So, but I'm still here, still working, and glad to see you all.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Daryl Ray.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Daryl Ray with D-Ray Consulting Specialist. I am a certified community health worker and work with getting men connected to services in community health world, as well as that. And I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
Vernon.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Vernon Anderson. Ditto a lot of the same things Daryl said. I'm with D-Ray Group, consulting specialist, also community health worker. Same as Daryl, work to help get men connected with services. Also here in Ridgeway, South Carolina.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Vernon. Terry Jowers, tell us about yourself.
Hi. I'm a community health worker. in Columbia, and I am the fairy godmother of MNCHWA. So happy to be here and happy to support men reaching men.
I like it. I think I'll go by the title, The Hairy Dog Father, if you're going to go with that one. Rebecca, tell us about yourself.
Hey, I'm Rebecca. I'm having a million tech issues, but I'm here. I'm a community health worker in South Carolina. I go everywhere and I love it. Right now I support men and their health and teaching them about how to live healthy, successful lives.
Wagner, yeah, bringing in some more Latino-ness in here.
I made it
Introduce
on
yourself.
time. Nice to see all of you. Terry, Rebecca, I don't see you, but I can hear you. Very nice to see you. My name is Agner Munoz, Munoz in English. I'm a community health worker and currently working as the Midlands and Saluda Greenwood sites coordinator for PASO's organization. Nice to see you all.
To kind of give me myself an over. Oh, Samone, right? Make sure I get that right.
I gotcha. Hello, everyone. My name is Samone Howard. I'm not a community health worker. I'm a public health educator, and I work at the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina. We're based in Columbia, but we service the whole state.
Yes. She's got a lot of good stuff to share. And I didn't really give an introduction of who I am other than just kind of the host of these meetings. So for the people who join us for the first time, I'm the executive director for the Good Samaritan Clinic, which is a free clinic. We have 4 locations here in South Carolina in the Midlands, Columbia area, predominantly serving Latino patients. But I'm also on the board of the Free Clinics Association here in South Carolina and just a general resource connector for y'all. So see me as a resource, anything you guys might need. What I want to do is go into breakout rooms and let you guys talk to each other a little bit. How about we frame the discussion around what does brain injuries look like? What have you seen? What have you experienced? Right? And how what were the symptoms and what were some of the things that were done about it? Or anything else you want to prompt? So,
Nope, that pretty much covers it.
I'm gonna kick it off. Pick a room, y'all, or it'll pick one for you. Introduce yourself a little bit more. We'll come back in like about 5 minutes. Hey,
Hey,
welcome back, everybody. How was those conversations? Give me some emojis, some
Oh
thumbs
my,
up.
it was so short, man. You put Terry and Agner together and we don't, you just like talk a lot and
Get a
yeah.
room.
Yeah.
You guys can meet up later for lunch. But let's hear what some of the things that were shared. Agner, Terry, go ahead and go first. How did you guys stay on topic? What did you guys talk about?
You wanna go first, Terry? Yeah. So I was telling Terry about and it has to be related probably to mental health in Latino males. We have seen an increase of domestic violence cases, and when you ask the right questions to the victims, most of them they will tell you that didn't happen before. It's just when they moved to the United States or they moved from state to another one. So there's something there that is triggering these males to I don't know if they can. Of course, I know all the frustration of the changes, the culture change, the isolation, not having their friends and family. I know they will affect them, but yeah, there's something there that it's creating this increase of domestic violence cases because these men that they don't know how to handle, they don't have the tools to handle this pressure probably.
Definitely true. Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to masculinity, forms of it, right? The responsibility, the shame, the
Definitely
pressures, and
shame, the
coping.
stigma, and that's the thing, they will not reach out
Success.
to look for help because they're the macho man. They supposed to be strong and they work in groups, most of them. Like, and if they, I don't know, feel like weak going to a doctor or looking for mental health, they just stay quiet and just keep this, never-ending cycle.
Thanks for bringing that up. Absolutely. And if anybody has anything to add to that, please, these meetings, just so you know, Devin and Mike are very conversational, right? So just feel free to just unmute and just jump in, right? It's a very, very active kind of situation. Excitingly, my clinic just got a mental health grant. We put in for 20,000, but we got 5,000. So yeah, what we're gonna make happen with that, we'll figure that out. But it's important, and we're excited to see that happening. So let's go
So
to the
Mike,
next one.
Mike, I'm glad to hear that. But one of the things I think is really important is, okay, so we see some of these signs, right? Increased alcohol and drug, the increase in domestic violence, social isolation, those things. The thing to really work on is how do we address it, right? So how do we start changing those norms? So with your little $5,000, I'm gonna challenge you to do that.
Yeah. We'll stretch it as best as we can and make it as impactful as we can. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe you and I can have a conversation. Absolutely. Because I hope this will set the way for more. Vernon's room.
Yes, Simone and I had a great conversation. Simone, I'm not gonna say a whole lot because I don't want to give away, but I want to steal in and thunder. But had a great conversation about because I told her, about the types, talked about the types of brain injuries. And she kind of brought it back to my memory, like when she talked about, the internal, like, maybe strokes. And kind of brought it back to I was sharing with her about a relative of mine, my uncle, my youngest uncle, about 41, 42 years old, had a stroke, rupture in the back of his head. And by the time when they did the surgery, he lost all his mobility skills. Was not able to talk anymore, anything like that. But he was cognizant of everything that was going on around him, but he couldn't express, self, and then lost the movement, that type of thing. So it kind of, reminded me about, that process. And it went on for almost 2 years. But, like I said, he fought a great fight of faith as far as, persevering and, all the staff's like, nah, he's our best patient. He's our best patient, but it was a long process, but at the same time, but I do appreciate everything, Simone, you sharing. So but I'm not going to say too much more because I don't want to say what she's going to say.
Good. Yeah. Gerald, Ray, and Devin, then Ray.
I just gave a brief story of a friend of mine that back in the 90s got in a bad car accident and having to kind of help walk her out of that because she literally was bedridden with a trach in her throat, and seeing her go from that to getting, it was a slow process, but she came out of the hospital, I mean, not able to walk or anything at first, but then coming out, she ended up walking, going back to school, getting her degree. And if you were to see her today, you wouldn't know that she had that accident. But back then, everything was like touch and go, and just having to be there with somebody to walk them through it. Definitely a whole lot of prayer on my end, but it can recover at times depending on what it is. But that person being there makes a big difference.
Back on relationships. That's a good point to bring up too. What it brings onto other people's lives. And I was in a room with Rebecca and Mike shared with me something that's related to his work and this topic for today. Mike, do you mind recapping that?
Sure. So we at Men's Health Network have been working alongside other coalitions that focus on brain injury and traumatic brain injury to try to reform some of the protocols that are in place, particularly among high schools when it comes to concussion and concussion protocols. I haven't really been active in Tennessee on that, but I know that our national network has been attending congressional briefings and that sort of thing. So it's an issue that's on our radar. It's not what we really focus on because we're more to be honest with you, we're more about heart health and prostate cancer awareness, testicular cancer, and fatherhood programs. But traumatic brain injuries and of course mental health is all something that we're focused on. Where we are working in coalition with others that are more focused on it, but I still think that gives us a foot in the door on these topics.
Amazing. Yeah, there's a wealth of experience and knowledge in this room. As popular education style goes, please chime in as we get guided through the material by Simone. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to give you a little breakdown of her background, and then I'll let her kick it off. So, everybody, welcome Samone Howard. She is the Health Coordinator Liaison at the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina and a certified health education specialist. Her work spans domestic violence, overdose-related injuries, and trauma-informed outreach. She leads efforts to educate providers and communities on how to recognize and respond to brain injuries, especially among underserved populations. So let's give her that big, warm MNCHWA welcome, everybody. All right. Are you able to share your screen? You're on mute.
Yes, sorry, I'm sharing it right now.
Cool.
Can y'all all see this okay?
Coming up. There you go.
Perfect, thank you. So thank you for that introduction, Mike. My name is Samone Howard, like Armani. I know it's complicated. But today we're talking about domestic and intimate partner violence related brain injuries. And since we mentioned this really a collaborative and talkative group, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. So this is our logo. As I mentioned, I'm with the Brain Injury Association of South Carolina, and we are based in Columbia near Harbison, but we service the entire state. And this is a part of our mission statement, which is creating a better future through brain injury prevention, research, education, and advocacy. This is our somewhat newly renovated website. If you see here, we have a quick exit, which if you've ever been to a domestic violence page, they're very common. And ours takes you to the weather page, and it does not allow you to go back using the back button. So the point of this is that if a person were accessing resources like on the SC Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault webpage or the National Hotline webpage, what this does is it allows them to quickly exit this material if their abuser were to walk in and, give them plausible deniability. So intimate partner violence and domestic violence sound very similar, but there are some key differences. So I'll just read them to you right now. So intimate partner violence is a pattern of abusive behavior toward an intimate partner in a dating or family relationship where the abuser exerts power and control over the victim. And then domestic violence occurs when one person uses power and control over another person through abuse, threats, or other forms of coercive control. So that can be mental, verbal, physical, economic, medical, or sexual, and it may also involve stalking or harassment. Does anybody want to say any examples of how these things could be abusive?
Obviously, it creates a sense of anxiety, right? Even the threat of violence creates a sense of fear, and that can just lead to all sorts of other physical ailments, right? Just from that, tightening up, obviously on top of the physical, damage.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe isolation and a sense of helplessness by the victim.
Yep, exactly.
Mike number 2 has his hand up.
Oh, yes, Mike.
He could be
Number
Mike
2.
number 1.
Yeah, I've just got a question. Coercive control, is that mentioned in there? It's so small I can hardly see it, but is that a term? That's a term that's used in this space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that do you know much about that topic? And somebody was telling me just at the gym just the other day that it's considered a form of violence, domestic violence, if you take your partner's credit card from them because they are spent for whatever reason. You take the credit card, that can be considered an act of violence. Is that true? Because I said no, that can't be true.
Well, the thing about domestic violence that kind of can make it complicated is when most people think of domestic violence or intimate partner violence, their mind immediately goes to, first of all, male abuser, female aggressor, and it's physical violence that's happening in the home. But like you can see here, there are a ton of different ways that that can be perceived. So taking someone's credit card, that could be a form of economic abuse because they're not allowing their partner to exhibit free will with their finances. But there may be a reason behind that that may lead them to see, try and justify it, maybe think it's what's best for their relationship or see it as taking care of their partner. But it may just be a situation where they need to allow their partner to be an adult, maybe set some boundaries in that relationship or decide to walk away altogether if they can't come together to act as two, autonomous adults in the relationship. So taking a credit card could be seen as economic abuse or coercive control, definitely, depending on the situation.
Like a psychological abuse as well. Someone, now you depend completely 100% on me. You can't even move from your home because you don't have a credit card or money to move out. So that's, it's messing with the psyche of the person, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Or they could take the card and then go spend it on something that they want for themselves. And now
Also,
it's in the other person's name, which
yeah, and now you
is
have to
considered
pay
a
for that.
crime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for that example. So you all probably know the difference between a risk factor and a protective factor, but quick explanation. So risk factors are things that make it more likely for a certain activity or behavior to occur. It doesn't mean that there's going to be, 100% chance it's going to happen because ABC happened, but it does raise the risk of that event happening. And the protective factors are things that lower the risk of events happening. And then a quick disclaimer before I get into these. So male and female IPV and D relationships are the most common, but we must remember that children, men, and those in the LGBTQ plus community may have also sustained brain injuries from IPV and DV. So race, age, gender, sexuality, disabilities, mental health status, and socioeconomic status are all risk factors for IPV and DV, meaning they can increase your risk. And then a lower ACE score. Does anyone know what an ACE score is? I want to explain it.
That adverse childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I can't explain it like you can, but
yes, so ACE scores do mean an average childhood experience, and they could be things like physical, sexual, mental abuse, parents divorcing, a parental figure being incarcerated, someone in the home using drugs um, or having mental health issues. So it is a list of things that are not good for children to see and that they grow up with. And these ACE scores can impact their health, their behavior. It can lead them to, it is a risk factor for lots of things. Yes, Terry? Oh, you're muted.
I'm thinking that another risk factor is kind of what Agner brought up. Somebody has a rather acute life change, like losing a job, migrating to a new country. I've also, because I worked with domestic violence for 8 years, I've also seen a partner being diagnosed with a long-term illness who then that became a risk factor for them. So kind of those acute life challenges. If we think about what an ACE is as a child, thinking about those as an adult, those that might trigger somebody as an adult.
Yeah, that is a great point. I don't think there is a similar thing to an ACE score, but yeah, life events can definitely cause a person to be at risk for more risky behavior. Yeah, so the lower, the least adverse childhood effects you have, the more likely you are to lead a healthier lifestyle statistically. And then social connections, like having family, friends who encourage you to, lead a positive lifestyle, maybe pick you up when you're down or when they see you going down a wrong path, having familial support, examples of healthy relationships like with your parents, maybe your friends, your aunts and uncles, and seeing how they live their lives and how they operate in that healthy relationship. Knowledge of boundary setting, like we talked about with the credit card, it could be that this person is allowing their partner to take over their credit card because they are learning how to be financially stable, or is this person just taking their credit card without their permission to take control over them? And that could be a boundary that they set together. And then emotional regulation are also a protective factor for IPV and DV. So these are some state and national statistics for SC in the US. So in the state of South Carolina, 46 people were murdered by a former or current intimate partner in 2024. 1/5 of national homicide victims were killed by a former or current intimate partner. Women 18 to 35 have the highest rates of IPV. The 2015 US transgender study revealed that 54% had experienced intimate partner violence, and homicide is the leading cause of death among pregnant and postpartum women. So are these surprising to anyone? Or do you have anything that you've seen in your work that might line up with this? So now that we've gone over the base of what IPV and DV are, we're going to talk about how it connects to brain injuries. So the head, the neck, and the face are the most common sites of injury in IPV and DV. Up to 92% of incidents involve hits to the head, face, or strangulation. And these can lead to concussions along with hypoxic and anoxic brain injuries, which I'll explain in a little bit. And this is so dangerous for survivors because after the first traumatic brain injury, or TBI, the risk of a second is 3 times greater. And then once you have that second TBI, the risk of a third is 8 times greater. So over time, your brain becomes more sensitive to those injuries. And then, as you guys probably know, oftentimes survivors may not seek care after an attack. They're often unaware of a brain injury, and if they do go to the hospital or clinic, they're not commonly screened for a brain injury when they do seek care. So I don't know what you guys talked about in your breakout rooms, but have you ever known someone who's had a concussion? Whether it be from playing contact sports like football, basketball, riding ATVs, getting in a car accident, anything like that? Yeah, so a concussion, it was actually just World Concussion Awareness Day. And they found that a lot of people did not realize that a concussion was a brain injury. And if you don't remember anything else, just remember that a concussion is considered a brain injury and is sometimes referred to as a mild brain injury. So a concussion is a hit to the head or a jolt to the body, which causes shaking of the brain inside the skull. And as I said, they're referred to sometimes as a mild TBI. And due to a cascade of events, this can lead to a functional problem, but not necessarily a structural problem. So because of this, they may not be detected on a CT scan or an MRI, and they usually resolve over 7 to 14 days. So if you guys have ever worked with anyone with an invisible injury, you know how frustrating it can be to seek care. Oftentimes the doctors are not really equipped or empathetic enough to deal with those things. So as I said, most 80% of the concussions resolve over 14 days. But think about that 20% of people. They had a concussion or a mild TBI, maybe in a car crash or playing sports, and now they're having extended symptoms like mood swings, headaches, maybe they're feeling nauseous, their sight isn't as well. And they go to the doctor and they're trying to figure out what's wrong, but they literally cannot see anything on the scan. They cannot tell what's wrong with them. And the doctor, since it's referred to as a mild TBI, it might not be taken as seriously as it should be. So people who have long-term concussion symptoms are often not able to access the care that they need.
Let me ask this, because So my partner, her daughter recently was taken in for a head injury. It was the second time she, got hit. She's a part of color guard, and one of the flags hit her on the side of the head, and it actually knocked her out. But earlier that week, she had bonked her head on like a locker, and she didn't think anything much of it, but she did start having headaches throughout the week. And then when the secondary one happened the same week, it knocked her out, and then they took it seriously. I guess like my question kind of is, how do we know when something is serious enough to you know take it to that next level and have an examination or go see care? Like, how do we make that distinguish this, how do we distinguish that?
Well, first, since you mentioned that she passed out, if the person passes out for more than 30 minutes, it's automatically a moderate brain injury. And if they're passed out or unconscious for more than a day, it's automatically a severe brain injury. So I would say the symptoms that initially happen after it happens, like it could be things like your pupils are different shades, you're feeling nauseous, you're losing consciousness, you have an altered state of consciousness, which when you like, kind of feel loopy, you don't really feel like yourself. And then with concussions, since they do normally resolve over that within a month, if the symptoms go on longer and they're more serious, so like having intense headaches, mood swings, your vision can be changed with the brain injury, that's when you may want to seek additional care and try and get into a concussion clinic to meet with someone who, understands that there might not be anything on the scan, but this person is coming to you with their symptoms that are seriously affecting their life from a, you know, mild TBI or concussion.
Somebody, but probably probably discussions for Mike. The girl went to see the pediatrician immediately she hit the first time or not?
Not the first time, no.
That's why, because probably it will go through a protocol process of knowing like avoid things, and it's in every single sport now they have protocols for these concussions or actions. So probably she will have taken to the pediatrician. He will tell her, or he will tell her that avoid this type of exercise for the next few weeks, because you never know. There are some protocols in place for these concussions actions. Yeah.
Yeah, because she had hit her head in a locker situation, but that's good to know that maybe she would have been advised to not do
Do not
certain.
play the sport for at least 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah, probably.
That's good. What about treatment at home? Like when is there anything along those lines you can recommend, sorry?
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do at home, like things as simple as playing card games, like that game where you flip things over to try and find the matching squares. That's good for memory. Um, Maybe doing like kind of challenging yourself at home to help make your motor skills better, sorry, like balancing or doing simple exercises, or like taking time to just meditate and sit in a dark room if you're getting overstimulated. And there are lots of things you can do to help make your environment more comfortable. Yes. Any more questions?
For examples, y'all. If there's any sort of scenario that you've witnessed, we can always learn from how it was handled, what they went through. So please feel free to share experiences as well.
Oh, great. So not to this is a very rare syndrome, so don't worry too much, but there is a thing called second impact syndrome, and that is a rapid brain swelling due to a second concussion sustained before the first brain injury has fully healed. So when it is diagnosed, it has a 50% mortality rate, and if they survive, it has a near 100% disability rate, but it would show up quite immediately after. So you're probably in the safe zone. So we actually talked about this in our breakout room, but there are two different types of brain injuries. So we have an acquired brain injury and a traumatic brain injury. And another disclaimer, just because it's not labeled traumatic does not mean the circumstances surrounding it aren't traumatic. That's just the way that the medical professionals labeled it. So an acquired brain injury is more so internal. It's not due to congenital or genetic factors like in the womb. So that could be a stroke, a lack of oxygen, like from strangulation, an infection like meningitis, or an overdose. And then a traumatic brain injury is caused by an external force, such as a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or a penetrating head injury like an assault, a car crash, an explosion for our veterans, being struck by or against something, falling, or harsh shaking. And adults can have brain injury from harsh shaking if it is intense enough. And then anoxic and hypoxic brain injuries, they are very, very similar. Anoxic just means there's no oxygen getting through at all. And hypoxic means that there is some oxygen, but it's not enough to maintain homeostasis and keep the heart rate and the blood pressure and everything running smoothly. So it also leads to the gradual death of brain cells. This is a timeline from the Training Institute of Strangulation Prevention. I'm gonna try. I can't zoom in, so I'll just read it to you. But so after 5 to 10 seconds, a person is rendered unconscious. At 15 seconds, they have a loss of bladder control. At 30 seconds, they have a loss of bowel control. And at 10 to 30 seconds is when petechiae would develop. Does anyone know what that is? Okay, great. So petechiae is when the blood vessels burst from too much pressure. So if a person were strangled, it would usually be above the area of constriction. So in people with fairer skin, you'll see it like around their neck or around their eyes, like where my glasses are. And then in anyone with any skin tone, you'll see it in the whites of their eyes. And it's the blood vessels bursting from the pressure buildup. So if a person were to go to court or they want to press charges against their abuser, that is a very clear sign of strangulation. So now we're going to choose some common brain injury symptoms. So first up, very, very common, we have headaches on the physical side, and that could be due to a few things. That could be because of the fact that you were just hit in the head. Like if you've ever fallen, you're going to have a headache. Or it could be the brain releasing chemicals that are making a person have a headache due to the fact they have a brain injury. And then things like dizziness, nausea, trouble with balance, blurred vision, fatigue, slurred speech, and sensitive to light and noise. Some cognitive things could be concentration, understanding information, confusion, problem-solving skills could take a hit. On the behavioral side, we have impulsivity, executive dysfunction, aggression or inappropriate reactions. Emotional symptoms are also very, very common. That could be depression, anxiety, mood swings or irritability, and then sleep. It could go one of two ways. They have difficulty falling asleep, which would be insomnia, or they have difficulty staying asleep and they sleep much more or less than usual. So they're either doing it too much or too little, and they're not able to regulate that. So now we're going to talk about how brain injury symptoms, the symptoms that we just talked about, can create barriers to IPV and DV survivors. So I'll do the first one, and we can discuss it along the way. So does everybody here know what safety planning is in the context of IPV, DV? Okay, so when a person begins to leave an abusive situation, if they seek help from a shelter, the first thing they're probably going to do is create a safety plan, because the most dangerous time for a person to leave their abuser, the most dangerous time for a person with their abuser is when they're trying to leave, and that's because the abuser has maybe lost control. It's kind of like a "if I can't have you, no one can" situation, and it's just that one final way to have control over their victim, and that is when most people are killed within a year of leaving the abuse relationship. So a safety plan is meant to help mitigate that risk. So that could be getting all of your documents, your birth certificate, your social security card, creating a new bank account if you don't have one, learning where you're going to go. Do you have family nearby or far away, preferably? Finding out how you're going to get all your stuff out without them noticing, maybe moving things gradually or having a go bag that you can take, finding some transportation. So everything that I just listed off, the person at the shelter may be able to help them with. But if you're a person with a brain injury, some symptoms can make it harder to go through with that. So I just said like 10 things, and You might not be able to say all that I just said back to you. So memory could be a pretty big barrier to them. Impulsivity, maybe their plan requires them to have to wait it out a few months, but they decide, one day I just have to go now. I can't wait. It has to be done. And that could be due to impulsivity. Confusion and understanding information kind of go hand in hand. And maybe you have to submit some court documents for a restraining order or order of protection. You have to go to the bank and open a new account. You've never done that before. It can be kind of difficult. And chronic pain, because that is another thing that our survivors mention frequently. So this is a pretty easy one because it's hard for everyone. But what do you think of those symptoms impacting someone's ability to navigate the legal system?
I mean, if it's hard to muster up the courage to just get a bank account on your own, imagine, trying to navigate forms regarding and talking about the details of the actual scenario. I mean, that's times 10, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot to expect.
Exactly. Yeah, so my very first one was anxiety. Along with communication issues, because some people with a brain injury can also have a slur or stutter, or they're not able to maybe they're not able to get their words across as clearly as they may like. So if they're on the stand, they're nervous, they're scared because their abuser's there. Maybe they're fighting for custody, or they're trying to get an order of protection or child support, or anything like that. They have to advocate for themselves, make sure that they're getting their words across clearly. The defense judge may be trying to trip them up. So it can be a very anxiety inducing situation. And then confusion, as I said, no one really understands the legal system when dealing with lawyers and court and everything. And then having troubles with self-advocacy can also make it pretty hard for them. All right. Has anyone here ever lived with a roommate? A bad roommate? Yeah. So think about that imagine you're a person with a brain injury and you have to live with other people who have been through a traumatic events. They're all kind of in a state of anxiety, heightened risk. How might that scenario be made more difficult? Okay, that's fine.
No, keep waiting. Let the stylist get them.
Hey, can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, so how would the symptoms that we went over, how would they make it harder for a person to live in a safe house or a shelter?
I mean, it could make it almost impossible. You'd be completely
What's
vulnerable. You'd be
what's
completely
the-
vulnerable.
vulnerability?
So a lot of times in a safe house or a shelter, there are shared responsibilities. And they have to help with the cooking or taking care of kids or cleaning up or whatever. And I've had folks who were not able to do that. I mean, again, you think about like a Muhammad Ali, when your head's been hit over and over and over and over again to the point where you can't speak, you have difficulty moving, you have an awkward gait, those kind of things. And simple tasks are very difficult. So that's why shelter, in particular, domestic violence shelters, they are about shared responsibility.
Yes, thank you so much for that perspective, Terry. I'm glad you have a firsthand account.
And
So
I
I
think
put,
just,
yeah.
and I think also just being in a crowd, around people, because you're hearing constant like different commands. You can't process it like a regular person, because if you're like in a shelter, you're gonna have the kids running around. It's just gonna be chaotic. Or if you're in any type of shelter, it's just too much other stuff going on, and you're just trying to keep it together. And so it's gonna be a very like high stressed environment, and it could be probably overwhelming for that person. that's had traumatic head injury.
Yes, thank you. That is another, that's almost exactly what I put in here. So so we're gonna skip to sleeping issues. I thought about this one especially because first of all, they're already having issues with sensory issues. They have a lower threshold for dealing with sensory things. And then if you're already having trouble with sleep, you can't get to sleep, you can't stay asleep, you're suddenly a light sleeper, and you've figured out your routine, you need total silence, blackout curtains, the room needs to be 65 degrees, fall asleep, and your roommate maybe has kids, or they like to sleep with the TV on, or they snore. That can make people living in maybe close quarters, like I said, in a state of had anxiety, already pretty irritable, or are supposed to be, helping each other heal or trying to learning how to live with different personalities. So let's put things like aggression, inappropriate reactions, sensitivity to light or noise, and communication. So for inappropriate reactions, say you have to go to a mandatory group therapy. If you have a brain injury and you're laughing while someone is telling, about this traumatic thing that they went through, that's also going to create more friction in the house. And then the very last one, which is starting a new life.
That's the question again.
Oh, yes, sorry. So, how would brain injury symptoms impact what brain injury symptoms would impact a person's ability to start a new life?
Whole thing about finding a place to live, first of all, and even getting a job if you can, because you probably can't work, so you probably have limited resources as far as money, and just day-to-day living, just trying to get yourself situated. How are you going to get your stuff moved if you have anything? It's just you're starting from scratch. And think about a homeless person that has their wits, what they got to go through, the stress of that. And here it is, you're homeless, and now you got a brain injury as well. So you're kind of handicapped on what you can do. And even, like you said, going to all the different places that can give you help, trying to process paperwork, if someone will help you. So just being in it, if you're alone, trying to do that, you're just going to be you're going to struggle very badly. And even if you have help, making sure it's the right help. So it's a lot that just, like I said, just because it's overwhelming with the injury that you have, and then sometimes if your memory may be coming and going, or you might have short term or long term memory, and so they may ask you a question, you may not have the answer because you can't remember. So it's going to be a lot that's going to go on for that person.
Yes, perfect answer. Thank you so much. You covered almost everything. So, as he said, you're starting a new life basically from scratch, and you have a brain injury on top of that. So, I put just a lot of wide range of things. So, chronic pain, understanding information. So, let's say you're moving just one town over. You have to get new apartments. That you have to tour apartments, apply for the apartments, pay the apartment fee, maybe go multiple times to compare the apartments, speak to the people. You have kids, you have to find their new school, maybe look up the school district and decide where you can afford to live so that they can go to one of the better schools. Find out how to take them to school, sign them up for school, maybe put them on a bus route, tell them, about stranger danger and all these things. So that's just two things, and it took like 20 different items to get through that. So a person with a brain injury might not be able to handle, or at least as well as a person without a brain injury, they might not be able to handle it and deal with it efficiently. So thank you. That was great. So this was actually developed from the Brain Association of New Hampshire, and it was for working people with substance use disorder. But with brain injury, we like to say if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury, because just like every person is unique and different, every brain injury is unique and different. So it's really all about meeting your clients where they are and their situation. So for some people, using visual aids such as handouts and agenda may work great, but if they're still living with their abuser, that might not work for them. But you do want to encourage them to take notes and use calendars, phone reminders, and alarms so that they can remember when they have an appointment with you. have a safe person to hold on their safety plan if they can't remember it or if it's safe for them to have. Ask the client to reflect what you said back to you to make sure that they're not caught up on anything or they're not misremembering or misunderstanding anything. This depends on the person. You may want to meet in the morning when energy levels are higher, but if they have insomnia and they're not getting to bed till 4, they're probably not going to want to speak with you at 10. You want to try and keep the instruction, phone calls, and meetings short, but also concise. So, really seeing what they may need more explanation with and what they understand with you. And they want to make space with few distractions and sensory abrasions. So if you get the grass cut on Tuesday and your office is right by the front lawn, maybe choose a different day for them to come by. And these are just some screening tools. They're available online. And I only included these because when I first started working here, a lot of the screening tools they only cover traumatic brain injury. Like, did you play contact sports? Were you in the military? But they didn't cover things like strangulation or abuse. But the ODVN, who is kind of leading the charge in brain injury related, IPV&D related brain injuries, they developed this chart that is specifically for survivors. So it asks about strangulation, being hit or hurt in the head, neck, or face, and then going to that altered consciousness, feeling dazed, confused, dizzy, and then a list of symptoms. And this one is just very, very comprehensive. Asks about being in an abusive relationship, having overdosed, maybe having seizures, and it's just more inclusive than other screening tools usually are. And this is just some of the work that we do in IPV and DV, but I'm going to skip this for now. And these are some resources that I thought would be useful to you guys. So locally, if you're in South Carolina, we have the SD Coalition Against DV and Sexual Assault, or SCIDVASA, and what they do is they really encourage partnership and collaboration among different domestic violence agencies in the state. And the SC Office of the Attorney General with the Violence Against Women Act, they help lead the office that is the Victims Compensation Fund. So anyone who's a victim of crime, which could include domestic violence, they can help support the cost of funerals or medical bills, but they don't cover things like property. And I believe other states do have programs like that. One group that I've found really...
They also cover counseling.
Yes, they do cover counseling. Thank you, Terry. Yes, another group is the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. Their page is really, really, really great. You could spend a whole day on there. They have information about how the child support system works. They have job and education resources for them. It talks about your rights as a parent in the state of South Carolina. It's a really great resource for anyone and they also, I believe they also do like parenting classes. On the national scale, we have Men Against Domestic Violence, or MAD, A Call to Men. And that is an organization I think that CHW just partnered with, if I'm remembering correctly. And they basically talk about this thing called the man box and talk about how men have been conditioned to act a certain way, feel a certain way, and present a certain way to be considered a man, and how that attitude really hurts everyone in the long run. So they're very active on social media and they do great webinars. So if that's something you're interested in, that could be something to look into. And then another resource is called Women's Law. So we just talked about how complicated the legal system is. What Women's Law does is they have a list of all the laws for each state, and they put it in layman's terms for laws that can help support victims of domestic violence. So some states, not South Carolina, I believe, they will allow you to break a lease if there is a violent situation, which if you've ever had to break a lease, it can be incredibly expensive. And then some states also have laws in the books to help protect people in their workplace if they're in a domestic violence situation. And these are just some IPV and DV hotlines that also have chat options available. So there's the National Domestic, Love is Respect, which is a program from National Domestic, which is meant for teens really. And then the Victim Connect hotline, Child Abuse Texting hotline, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAIN. the Department of Defense Sexual Assault Hotline, and the Human Trafficking Hotline.
So,
And that's it. Sorry, I went over.
no, it's fine. Absolutely. Thank you so much for all this information. I think you covered a lot and, gave great examples of what to look for, what to think about, where to go. So thank you very much. I want to get a couple takeaways. What if somebody raise your hand on you? What's something that you took away from today, please?
I would say probably how intentional. I think we all went at once. I like that. Let the silence kill 'em. But I was just the intentionality after someone has a brain injury, because those are a lot of symptoms, and how it makes navigating even simple things really difficult. And I couldn't help but notice towards the end those screening tools. The one that was colorful looked a little better, but those looked really complex. And I'm just imagining someone with a brain injury, if they were to sit down and fill that out themselves versus kind of being guided through it, just how challenging that may be even to fill out that form. The one with color was a little easier for me to like follow along with, but the white and black one was like, it's a lot of words. And so just thinking through the intentionality of after a brain injury, what it looks like to interact with somebody and how intentional you have to be.
Oh yeah, both of those surveys are both meant to be like read to a person.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
maybe
that's
a
what I
counselor, a
figured. Yeah.
doctor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for that.
Yeah. And even, I guess, even having someone read that to you, I almost wonder what that experience would be like with a brain injury.
Thanks. Mike, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, well, Devin kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but the other thing that I wanted to add was that are there brain centers like the one in South Carolina in all 50 states, or is it just unique to South Carolina?
There's almost one in every state. Some of them are, so we're all under an umbrella for the Brain Injury Association of America. And some of them are just affiliates. So they're not based in the state. They just have agents that work for BIAA. And then there's also some brain injury alliances. I'm not really sure, but they split a few years ago. But yeah, almost every state has one.
Is there a website? What is the national website that we can go to
Yes.
check and see chapters?
I can put it in the chat.
Samone, can you share the presentation with all of us? That was a great presentation with a lot of great information.
Yes, of course. I can send it to Mike.
Yeah, send it to me, Rebecca, and distribute it. Speaking of which, especially to the new people that came today, thank you so much. Please come back. We'll keep it at least till December, probably this third Thursday deal until January when we'll do reschedule. But we want your input. Tell us what works for you, and you might be the deciding vote. So we want to make this a work for everyone. But we have a Facebook, we have a our website. Make sure you check it out. Are there any topics right off the top of you guys' heads that you guys are thinking would be appropriate for these sessions that you would like for us to look into for you? Or that
Mike, I posted a brochure that I had created a while back to help men understand what their role is through pregnancy and birth and when the baby comes home. My organization didn't adopt it here, so I posted it on there. So if anybody wants to use it or claim it to help them deal with educating new dads with what their role is, because I think that's part of our problem, especially like in domestic situations where they just don't understand what they're supposed to do, and it frustrates them and it causes them to act out. So this may be a way of them, maybe getting a clue on what their responsibilities should be.
Ray, do you have it in Spanish as well, or can you share it?
No, pero por supuesto, si lo quiere traducir, pues hágalo.
Listo. Gracias. Okay.
Yeah, if somebody wants to translate it, hey, we can put it up on our website. We're happy to do that. I real quickly before you go, one of the things I'd like for y'all to think about, and I love that this was focused around interpersonal violence. But what I want you to think about are what those symptoms are, because sometimes you work with people and hey, something ain't right, right? It feels like we're not connecting here. There's something going on. And this where may be one of those times where you start asking questions, right? Hey, have you ever been in Iraq? Hey, have you ever overdosed on drugs, right? Or, kind of y'all are the trust agents, but getting to a place to ask around that. And I've had it happen where you're working with somebody and you realize, wow, they're not connecting here. And when you start pushing just a little bit, you find out this is somebody with a big brain injury. And how you work with them is gonna be different than how you work with somebody else. So I really appreciate this conversation so much and really thinking about how y'all can apply this. I thought it was great.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. And keep in touch. Be here next time, and we'll see you around. Keep being awesome. I Okay.
South Carolina guys, can y'all